The knock on my door at exactly 5 a.m. wasn't gentle. It wasn't polite. It was
The
desperate.
proof is right
I
here.
remember staring
Let me
at the
see
ceiling
that.
of my tiny
It's conclusive.
Chicago
We have to
apartment,
act. This
half
changes
asleep,
everything.
trying to figure out who in the world would show up at that hour. My alarm wasn't set. My phone was silent. And yet, the knocking came again. Harder this time. Urgent. Like whoever stood outside couldn't afford to wait. When I opened the door, I wasn't ready for what I saw. Standing barefoot on the cold concrete hallway floor, still wearing yesterday's designer coat, mascara streaked down her face, was Victoria Hale, my CEO, newly divorced, one of the most powerful women in Illinois, and she looked completely broken. For a second, neither of us spoke. The hallway light buzzed softly above us. Her eyes were red, unfocused, like she hadn't slept all night. This was a woman who commanded boardrooms filled with men twice her age. The woman whose signature could move millions of dollars with a single stroke of a pen. And now, she was standing at my door like she had nowhere else to go. I'm Michael Carter, 32 years old, divorced for 3 years, a mid-level financial analyst at Hale Industries, a single father raising my 7-year-old son, Noah. My life was spreadsheets, daycare pickups, and reheated dinners. Her life, at least a version the world saw, was private jets and headlines. That morning, those two worlds collided. She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. Her perfume, usually crisp and confident, was faint beneath the smell of rain and exhaustion. Outside, the Chicago skyline was still wrapped in darkness, dawn barely brushing the horizon. Inside my apartment, the only light came from the blinking stove clock, 5:02 a.m. Victoria's gaze drifted around the room. The worn couch with a blanket folded neatly. Noah's toy dinosaurs lined up near the TV. A crooked crayon drawing taped proudly to the fridge. Something in her expression softened for a moment, then shattered again. 3 months earlier, her divorce from Richard Hale had dominated every business column in the country. The power couple, the empire builders, also the headlines claimed. What they didn't show were the quiet battles, the control, the way her confidence had slowly been chipped away behind closed doors. I had noticed changes long before the divorce became public. Her sharpness in meetings had turned brittle. The pauses when she thought no one was watching. Once, after a brutal quarterly review, I saw her sitting alone in the conference room, staring out at Lake Michigan like she was searching for something she'd lost. But she was still untouchable. Until now. She finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. She told me she had signed everything away the night before. The penthouse, the Aspen house, even partial control of the company. She said she couldn't fight it no more, that the marriage hadn't ended suddenly. It had been suffocating her for years. What shocked me most wasn't the divorce. It was why she came to me. She said she remembered something I told her months ago during a late night at the office. I had stayed behind to finish a presentation because Noah had a school field trip the next morning, and I couldn't risk losing my job. She had asked why I looked so exhausted. I told her the truth, that being a single father was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but also the only thing that gave my life meaning after my own divorce. That sometimes losing everything forces you to find who you really are. She never forgot that. She admitted she didn't know who she was without her husband's shadow. For years, he had taken public credit while quietly undermining her confidence behind the scenes. When she finally filed for divorce, she expected to feel powerful. Instead, she felt empty. As the sky outside began to glow softly, my son's bedroom door creaked open. Noah stepped out, rubbing his eyes, confused by the stranger in our kitchen. Victoria instinctively wiped her face, trying to look composed. Noah smiled shyly, and without hesitation, offered her one of his toy dinosaurs. That small, innocent gesture broke the last wall she had left. I made coffee. She sat at my tiny kitchen table, staring into the steam rising from her mug like it might hold answers. She confessed she'd driven around for hours after signing the papers, past her old house, but couldn't go inside. Her friends had quietly sided with her ex-husband. Her family thought she was invincible. So she came to the only person who had once admitted he was broken, and survived it. And as the sun rose over Chicago, I realized this wasn't just a visit. It was the beginning of something neither of us expected. I didn't feel qualified to give advice to a CEO about rebuilding her life. I was still rebuilding mine. My ex-wife had left when Noah was 4. Said she couldn't handle the financial instability of my career path. I worked 2 jobs for a year to stabilize things. Missed birthdays. Cried in my car more times than I'll ever admit. But slowly, painfully, I built a rhythm. Morning pancakes. Friday movie nights. Little traditions that stitched my life back together. Victoria listened quietly as I told her the truth, that healing doesn't look glamorous. It looks like grocery shopping alone for the first time. Signing school forms with only one name. Waking up at 5 a.m. and choosing to keep going. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. She had knocked on my door at 5 a.m., and here we were talking about survival at dawn. Over the next few weeks, something unexpected happened. She didn't return to being untouchable overnight. At work, she became quieter, more observant. She apologized publicly during a meeting for dismissing a junior employee months earlier. People were stunned. At home, she started small. A modest townhouse instead of a penthouse. A golden retriever named Jasper because, as she said, she needed something that loved without conditions. She asked me once how I handled loneliness. I told her the truth. Some nights were still hard, but loneliness loses its power when you stop running from it. Our relationship shifted, not romantic at first, but human. 2 people whose lives had been rearranged without permission. Rumors followed. They always do. But what mattered was the transformation I witnessed. The woman who arrived at my door barefoot and broken began standing taller in her own skin. She rewrote company policies to support working parents, introduced mental health days, and at a leadership conference, she told her story openly, admitting that success doesn't protect you from pain. Nearly a year later, she invited Noah and me to a small company event celebrating a new partnership. The same board members who once whispered now praise her vision. Standing beside the Chicago River that night, she confessed something quietly, that the 5 a.m. knock wasn't just desperation. It was hope. She saw in my ordinary life something she never had in her extraordinary one, authenticity. That morning changed me too. I stopped seeing myself as just a single dad surviving. I realized I was someone capable of helping another person stand again. 2 years later, we began dating. Slowly, carefully, not because we needed each other, but because we had seen each other at our lowest. Our foundation wasn't built on power or wealth. It was built on a 5 a.m. knock and a kitchen table conversation as the sun rose over Chicago.